last night at about 9:30 p.m., Dallas police were called to the 6900 block of Hemlock Avenue regarding an accident. From what investigators have been able to tell, there were two small children that had been playing beside the road, and those two children began to walk across that street. As they did so, a vehicle came and struck Melanie Valdez, a 7-year-old, and hit her. The vehicle continued driving, and witnesses immediately attended to her, and some of the other witnesses began following the suspect vehicle that did not stop. The vehicle was described as a 2008 black Chrysler 4-door 300, and witnesses followed that suspect vehicle to an apartment complex in the 6000 block of Abrams Road. There, the driver of the Chrysler 300 got out and fled on foot. Some of the witnesses pursued him on foot, but they lost sight of him. He was described as a black male in his 30s, about 5 foot 5 inches tall, with a thin build. Police officers responded to the 6000 block of Abrams Road, where witnesses then directed them to the suspect vehicle. That vehicle has since been towed to the police auto pound. Investigators are currently working to identify who the driver of that vehicle was, and they continue to follow up on any leads. And we're asking that anybody that might know the identity of that driver or potential witnesses to the hit-and-run offense would contact hit-and-run investigators. The number is 214-670-5817. I'll take any questions you got on that.
You say you found a car, I'm assuming ran plates. Does it come back to the person who you're looking for? Or could the driver have been separate from who owns that car?
And that's a key question that the investigators are trying to follow up on right now. Vehicle crimes detectives, through the course of the hit-and-run investigation, obviously will run the license plate, and they will then try to piece together or trace back to find out who the driver was. And at this point, those are some of the things that they're trying to do.
Can you tell us anything about who owns that car?
No, I don't have information on the owner of that vehicle.
Lieutenant, can you say if you're in touch with who owns the vehicle or not?
I can't. Detectives have been in contact with a number of people regarding the offense in their follow-up investigation, and as we speak, are continuing to pursue those leads.
It sounds like you guys are ahead of the game with the vehicle and an apartment complex. How confident are you that you guys will have this wrapped up soon?
I won't speculate on a confidence level, but I will say that it certainly makes things. There's certainly more leads to follow up on when you have the vehicle, as opposed to had the witnesses not been able to direct officers to that key piece of evidence.
Lieutenant, the family of the 7-year-old says that they were not playing, that they were in fact walking home, the two girls, with a grandmother and an aunt. They were at a nearby apartment celebrating a saint, a ritual that the family does. They were walking home. That's the difference between playing in the street and walking home. Do you know, can you?
Sure, I don't want to give the impression that at any time do we think that they had been playing in the street. The initial information on the offense report indicated that immediately prior to the collision, the two girls had been playing beside the roadway. But as the accident happened, as the collision happened, the two young ladies were walking across the street. They were crossing the street.
Okay.
So there were no indications that I'm aware of that they were playing in the street.
Lieutenant, the family actually says there were a total of 7 children altogether in that with that group that was walking. Can you confirm there were other children with the group and adults?
I don't know. I do know that there were a number of people that witnessed the collision. There were at least some that stayed and attended to Melanie, and there were others that followed the suspect. An exact count, I don't know.
Do we know if the car hit his brakes, the driver?
I don't have the specifics as to that. Those are things that the accident investigators will certainly look at, and there are a multitude of things that they will try to do to reconstruct and to attempt to calculate a minimum speed. But where they are in that state of the investigation is still very early.
So this is a situation where the people crossing the street, the guy just kept going, or did he see them at the last second, hit them, and just kept going?
I certainly can't speculate as to what he saw. I do know that it's somewhat dark. I don't know about the street lights in the area. I think I've seen reports where it's somewhat darkened, and there's just lights from the nearby apartment complex. A small girl, 7 years old. My daughter's 7, and we constantly warn her to stay with the adults because sometimes it's difficult to see children, certainly at night.
What message do you have for this driver? He's out there, he makes this, what do you say to him?
he should immediately call police and work to resolve this. There's nothing good that happens by staying out. I understand it, that if he's aware of what happened, he certainly may feel some remorse. I don't know, but for all considered, it would be best for him simply to call police and turn himself in.
Max, ordinarily you guys talk about citizens not necessarily trying to engage someone who's done something violent, in this case hitting a child, but at the same time, citizens following this guy kind of gave you your best information in terms of trying to get him arrested or at least identified at this point. What do you say about the people who actually risk themselves to follow him and try to find him?
Yeah, that's a great question, Randy. We would never advocate for citizens to put themselves into harm's way by doing something like this. At the same time, there is a benefit to having the information and certainly recovering the vehicle. But we would want people to err on the side of caution and be protected. Be a good witness. Don't involve yourself with trying to capture someone who may be dangerous, because we might end up with additional injured persons.
Lieutenant, how would you describe the department or investigators' level of confidence for actually finding this suspect, given that you have the car and maybe some leads through that? How would you put in perspective where you are right now in this case?
I would certainly say that we're hopeful that we can bring it to a logical resolution and to identify the suspect. Percentage or a level is not something I'm comfortable with giving based on the evidence at this point. But as I mentioned, it's certainly good that we have the vehicle and something to follow up on. But that's not the be-all, end-all of the case. We still have to identify who that driver was. And anyone with additional information is encouraged to call the Dallas Police Department with that information.
So an appeal is pretty much what you're putting out with hopes that will help as well.
Certainly. I think that's about it.
What street was the driver coming down and then turning onto that you get there?
The collision was at the corner there of Hemlock and Melody. Where the driver was coming from, I don't know.
And how far away was the where he actually stopped and bailed on foot? How far?
It's a little further to the south. This is, as you look at Hemlock right here, Hemlock is 6900 Hemlock is just to the southeast of Greenville and Park. A little further south on Abrams is where they ended up locating the suspect vehicle in the apartment complex.
So is that less than a mile, pretty much?
I'm going to let you Google that one.
Can you give the description again of this person?
Sure. He was described as a black man, about 5 feet 5 inches tall, with a thin build.
Is there any indication that he lived in those apartments off of Abrams, or he was just bailing, just pulling in someplace and trying to get out of there?
Don't know at this